Mercedes furious after Brazilian Grand Prix, as new evidence found. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. Lewis Hamilton wants the end 2024 to come soon enough, amid terrible Brazil F1 weekend. Lewis Hamilton expressed that an end to his last Formula One campaign with Mercedes can't come soon enough, as he rued a terrible Sao Paulo Grand Prix weekend. Hamilton experienced a nightmare outing in Brazil as a pointless run in the sprint materialized into a 10th place finish in the main race from down in 16th on the grid. The Briton had complained about his Mercedes car's balance during the weekend across all conditions, and he skated wide several times throughout a wet Grand Prix. Yesterday was terrible. Today was terrible, Hamilton told media, including Motorsport Week post-race. Yesterday was bad. Qualifying was bad. The sprint race was bad. The car's just been bad all weekend. Hamilton has struggled since Mercedes introduced an upgrade package in the United States last month, which he suspects has not delivered what it was anticipating. The 7-time F1 champion's woes reached a low point this weekend, as he branded how the W15 was behaving around Interlagos as the worst car I've ever driven. Asked to decipher the car's inconsistent behavior, Hamilton responded, "You tell me. That's the million-dollar question. If you can find it, I'll give you $1 million." Mercedes has been unable to maintain the momentum that saw it win 3 races prior to the summer break, with one top 3 finish arriving in the past 7 races. Hamilton, who hasn't been on the podium during that time, admitted that the season's end can't come soon enough as he prepares to move across to Ferrari in 2025. The Briton conceded that his expectations going into the remaining 3 events are low unless Mercedes identifies a solution to the bouncing that has been an issue. "I just put my focus on something else," he added. "I'm not fighting for the championship. It doesn't really matter where we finish in the championship. I don't care if I finish ahead of George or behind George. It doesn't make that big of a difference to me. I just want to keep the car out the wall and try to score points if I can for the team. If I can finish well and they give me a car that doesn't bounce off the track in the next few races, then hopefully we get a better result. Looking forward to Christmas." Hamilton gained some solace from the weekend in that he got to sample his idol Ayrton Senna's 1990 McLaren car around the circuit in the build-up to the race start. "Well, the race was bad, but driving Senna's car was the best thing ever," he stated. "So I'm still happy and grateful that I had that experience here in Interlagos." An amazing reception from the fans. They've been incredible this weekend. The fans turned up, I think, at 3 a.m. this morning. So, unbelievable commitment from the fans here this weekend. Let's not talk about the car, because you know the car is no good. Mercedes has been handed 2 separate €5,000 fines for breaching Formula One's regulations regarding the adjustment of tire pressures on the grid. The German manufacturer had been summoned to see the stewards after the Brazilian Grand Prix for allegedly having lowered the pressure of the tires on Lewis Hamilton and George Russell's cars after their wheels were fitted following the early aborted start. This is a breach of a technical directive that has been issued to teams and states that tire pressures can only be changed when wheels are off cars. Normally, such technical infringements trigger automatic disqualifications, but after listening to the team's explanation, the FIA stewards elected to hand down a sanction of €5,000 for each car. This is because Mercedes successfully argued that the difficult circumstances of the event, where access to the grid is more limited than at other venues, meant it was impossible for the squad to have changed pressures before the wheels had to be fitted. A statement issued by the FIA said, "After the race start was aborted, the 10-minute notice was immediately given for the new start." Given the layout of the circuit and the access point to the grid from the pit lane, the time period for the team to get to the grid was extended. The gate to access the grid was not immediately opened. The FIA accepted that given the short notice, it was extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the teams to follow the procedure prescribed in the technical directive. With Mercedes having adjusted the pressure in line with what is allowed by the regulations, the FIA was confident that the changes had not been made to gain an unfair advantage. Its statement added, "Given the unusual circumstances surrounding the compressed timetable, aborted start, the grid access logistics, and given the stipulation from the technical delegate that the tire pressures were within the correct parameters, the stewards determined that a fine for a breach of procedure is appropriate in this case." The second story is Toto Wolff admits Mercedes are in serious trouble amid concerns of F1 cost cap breach. Toto Wolff has confessed that Mercedes are at risk of breaking Formula One budget cap rules this season. The cap, introduced by the FIA in 2021, restricts the amount a team can spend throughout the year, with some exemptions. But crash damage is one thing that definitely counts towards the annual allowance, and that is something the Silver Arrows have had to fork out on a lot in recent times. George Russell experienced his second major crash in a week when he smashed into the barriers during FP2 at the Mexican Grand Prix, ending his session early. The Brit climbed out of his car under his own power, but TV cameras showed him doubled up and clutching his ribs in pain before he was taken to the medical center. Fortunately, a Mercedes spokesperson later confirmed that he had not suffered any lasting damage. But his car needed a total rebuild overnight, requiring more parts which need to be budgeted for. And on that front, team principal Wolff admits he is concerned about the state of his team's finances in relation to the budget cap. He said of Russell's 35G smash, "That was a really big impact. He was taken to the medical center, but he is okay. But of course the car is badly damaged. We do have the parts. I think we can keep the old chassis, but everything else has to go. The engine has to come out, the gearbox has to be checked, and everything else. 2 corners of the car are completely gone, so it is serious damage." Regarding the team's mounting repair bill, after Russell's qualifying crash in Austin last week and a big shunt for teenager Andrea Kimi Antonelli during a practice session at Monza in September, Wolff admitted, "We are in serious trouble. We are all struggling to stay within the budget cap, and of course we had a bad accident with Kimi at Monza, then the second one with George last week, and now again. Since the budget cap was introduced, Red Bull are the only team to have been found guilty of an overspend. They disputed the amount the FIA claimed they had gone over the limit by, but conceded that they had still breached the rules and reached a punishment settlement with the governing body. They were fined £5.4 million and had to accept a 10% reduction in aerodynamic testing for a 12-month period. The third story is Mercedes W16 experiments coming as upgrade plan for rest of F1 2024 confirmed. Andrew Shovlin sees the rest of F1 2024 as a good opportunity to conduct experiments for the Mercedes W16, with no more major upgrades planned for the current W15 car. Mercedes are almost certain to finish fourth in the F1 2024 Constructors' Championship, with the team trailing third-placed Red Bull by 146 points and 280 ahead of fifth-placed Aston Martin. Entering this weekend's Brazilian Grand Prix. Appearing on Mercedes' post-race debrief show, Shovlin confirmed the team intend to spend the rest of F1 2024 aiming to get a head start on next year's W16. He said, "It is certainly a good opportunity for us to do a bit more experimentation in the race weekends, but the key thing for us is making sure we have done the important bits of learning before the 2025 season. We are not bringing any more major updates to the car. It might be that we have some test items, some small bits of bodywork that we are looking at, but again, this would be very much in the context of learning for the future. There will be lots of opportunity to do setup work, lots of opportunity to use the two cars to compare different approaches, and hopefully, over the next few, we can just add to the learning that we have already made during this season." Mercedes introduced a major upgrade package to the W15 at the recent United States Grand Prix, but an accident for George Russell in FP2 in Mexico forced him to revert to a floor specification from the Miami GP in early May as teammate Lewis Hamilton ran the updated car. Asked if the comparison between old and new was useful for Mercedes in Mexico, Chauvelin said, "We have some useful data, and what we have seen from the update kit to date is it is delivering performance where we expect. In terms of the loads that we are measuring and the pressures that we are measuring on the aerodynamic surfaces, it all seems fine. What we were hoping for that we did not get to the full extent was a clean run with both cars where they were in clear air so we could see how they perform through the race." Lewis was quick off the line. He got in front of George, but he was struggling with his balance in stint 1. We corrected that for stint 2, but then he had George ahead of him who had his front wing issue because the flap had failed.